for anybody that misses class. Okay. The Thursday group's going very well. It's a very different crowd, quite interesting, and it's always interesting to see how people sort of come together within the dynamics. So it's going very well. They're also enjoying the journey. Tonight we are looking at insight, so mindfulness, and how to harness innovation. Okay, how to harness innovation and creativity, and something called divergent thinking. Have you heard of divergent thinking? Okay. Okay, let's have a look. We can have a bit of fun as well. I really do feel, I'm so glad there's no men on this class, because I think, I really do feel a lot for women. And I still feel that there's a lot of injustice in the world, and that a woman's place is difficult in this world. And I do feel a lot, because there's so much that a lady has to juggle. I mean, just looking at this image, and maybe you got someone who helps you clean the house or whatever, but I think men have woken up to some degree, but I think they still got a long way to go. And that's just my personal opinion. I think I'm a lady stuck in a man's body. Not that I'm gay or anything, but I really empathize. I really do empathize. So maybe my next life I'll be a woman. I'm pretty sure of it. Because I do. I respect and admire women, and I really do feel that women are leading in wisdom in this day and age. That men are somehow very much dumbed down or dulled down. And I'm not sure why, because in ancient times, men were the keepers of wisdom. Not to say that the women weren't, they probably just didn't have the opportunity to. But in terms of mindfulness and the wisdom training and mental psychology and philosophy, it was always the men. Now, ladies have taken over in this field of wellness and thought and philosophy. It's really quite interesting to see, and I'm happy about it. I must say, I'm very happy about it. I'm really happy to see so many wonderful teachers of meditation and mindfulness that are women, and that far surpass their male counterparts. Not that I have to bring sex into it, but it's just interesting for me. Yeah. So, ladies, give your husbands or your partners a kick up the bum and get them to meditate with you, if you have partners, that is. And I'm assuming that you're heterosexual. If you're gay, I'm sorry, that's fine too. So, executive functions of the prefrontal cortex, we've been working beautifully with the prefrontal cortex. The executive functions of this, as you can see: task flexibility, planning, attention, motivation, working memory, overcoming ingrained patterns, dealing with novel situations, decision making, error correction, troubleshooting. And we got creativity, okay, and abstract thinking is a function of the prefrontal cortex. Okay, I want us to do a little exercise together. This is called the Stroop test. Has anyone seen this before? Nope? Okay. Don't worry, you can't fail this one. We're going to do column 1 and column 2. Now, the way it works is you've got to read the color and not the word. All right, listen, the color and not the word. You got it? So, for example, it goes like this, okay? Red, blue, green, red, yellow, blue. Okay, everybody unmute and let's start again, right? Column 1. You see the format. We're going to do it together. Okay? So let's start. Column 1, right? Red, blue, green, red, yellow, blue,
red,
yellow,
yellow,
green,
red,
blue,
blue,
yellow, green, red,
yellow,
green, yellow.
red, green.
yellow.
Yay! Well done. You passed column 1. Was that hard? No. Okay, let's with the same speed and the same pace, let's tackle column 2. Remember the color and not the word. Let's go. Yellow,
Yellow,
red,
yellow,
green,
blue,
red,
Green,
green,
red,
green,
green,
yellow,
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 green,
yellow, red,
yellow,
yellow,
blue,
green,
blue,
green,
green,
red, green, blue,
yellow, blue,
red,
red.
yellow, green.
That was a bit more difficult.
Yellow, green.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, naughty.
Okay, so why it's a bit more difficult, is it? Why is it difficult? What's going on? What's challenging?
You had to focus.
Yeah, we had to really think about it. I mean, it's kind of it felt like there was a fight going on, didn't it? Okay, now this is called the Stroop test for a reason. It is a psychometric that some organizations use, specifically, I think it's the mining sector. They use it, and safety officers and so on. And they time you, and if you make mistakes or you go slowly, you don't get the job. And you don't get the job because they say that your default narrative mind is too strong compared to your direct experience mind. So what is your default narrative? It is autopilot mind. It's the mind that tries to save energy of the brain. So it just kind of says, oh, well, you know what? I'm so used to reading the word and not the color. So sorry, but I'm just going to, and then you get told, no, but you've got to read the color. But the default narrative is so strong that the exercise becomes really, really hard for such a person. They struggle. A mindful person, however, that is used to the direct experience of what's in front of them rather than what's expected or what is, what is habitual, okay? You're breaking out of the habit and now you have to focus on something that is directly in front of you. That is called the direct experience. The more mindful we are, the more we are able to access that direct experience mind, which is fantastic when it comes to troubleshooting and safety. Because if you're down in the mine and you're looking around and there's a snag or there's something that could potentially harm someone's life, you will see it. A person that is lost in the default narrative or the autopilot will not see the snag. Okay? And that is why the direct experience, people that have that capacity or ability will get the job of safety manager because they did the Stroop test. Okay, Nicole Mansell?
Yeah, Mark, a quick question. You're talking about this in a work context. Is this the same as saying that, when we use the phrase people are in denial, it's not necessarily that they're in denial, it's that they don't see. Or it might be that the person simply doesn't see what is factually in front of them. And that feels like it's relating to the same thing. We habitually go to what we want to believe because it keeps us safer.
Yeah.
And so we simply literally don't see at that part of ourselves or someone else or a
Correct.
situation.
Correct. It's exactly the same.
Mm.
We get lost in a pattern in our conditioning, and our conditioning forces us not to see. And we're going to do another little test, Nicole. You're going to like this one. You're going to like this one. I lived in a temple for 3 years, and I didn't become a monk, but the one monk said to me, Mark, your mind is like an ocean during a storm. Thoughts and emotions are like waves, and the waves are caused by winds of agitation that blow across the storm of your mind, the ocean of your mind. And if you dive down into your mind, you cannot see anything. There's just murkiness, turbulence. The monk said, calm the winds of agitation and the ocean will settle. And then if you dive into the ocean of your mind, you will see what is there. Beautiful things. But you have to be calm. And if you calm, what awaits you will surprise you. I love that one. So here's a little riddle. Okay, Nicole Mansour. Here's a little riddle. You may have heard this. If you have heard this before, okay, if you have heard this before, please don't shout out, okay? Give everyone a chance to figure it out, okay? A father and his son are traveling on Chapman's Peak. It's a rainy night. The car goes into a skid. They have an accident. It goes over the edge. The boy is rescued. The father dies. The boy is taken to the hospital. I think, what's it, Groote Schuur Hospital there. And on arriving, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, I can't operate. He's my son. Who is the surgeon? Take your time. Don't blur it out. If it's obvious to you, give everyone a chance. Do you want to hear it again? Must I say it again? Are you happy? You want to hear it again? All right. Father and son are driving. It's a wet road, Chapman's Peak. They have an accident. They go over the railing. The father's killed. The son is rescued, taken to Groote Schuur. On arriving at the hospital, the surgeon looks at the boy and says, I cannot operate. He's my son. Who is the surgeon? Have any of you heard this before? You have, Nicole Mansour? Okay, you know the answer? No? Come on, you would know the answer. No, okay.
I
Anybody
can't remember.
know the answer?
I'm not sure. Is the mother the surgeon?
Yes, the mother. Well done, Anna Marie. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, I just thought a woman can also be a surgeon.
Of course. So I suppose, look, I didn't get it first time. I was thinking father, maybe it was a priest, father priest, like a. And most people don't get it. I'd say 85% of people who I tell this story to, this riddle to, they're like completely confused. Why? Because of bias, unconscious bias. Okay? And it's maybe not your fault. You're not stupid, you're not silly. It's just that maybe when you went for surgery, there was a man, and maybe the previous surgeon was a man, and that is your evoked set, right, in your mind. That is, when you hear the name surgeon, there's an image in your mind of what a surgeon looks like. But as Anna Marie said, there's so many female surgeons too. as there are CEOs and presidents, okay? But in our mind, I mean, we could maybe present this story in many different ways and come up with many different situations, and we'd get caught out again and again, because in your mind is a image of a surgeon, which is blinding you from the obvious answer. It's the boy's mother. And it's exactly what Nicole Mensah was saying. It's a pattern, and you can't see it directly. It's the same as the Stroop test. So in our brain, when we think something again and again and again,
Sorry.
bless you, when we think something again and again and again, it creates a neural pathway. And that neural pathway between two neurons, there's a synapse, like a little string, and it joins. And it's really quite amazing. Joe Dispenza has got this video. I don't know how, I think it may be, I mean, there's no ways they could have filmed it, but it's just two neurons and they connect. And as they connect, that is a habit that is forming. And the more that you think something and the more you do something, the stronger that synaptic connection becomes. So you can think of it that you do something regularly, becomes like a super highway. Okay, we've got the N3 highway in Joburg. It's got so many lanes, right? There's so much information that quickly passes across that super highway. But if you try and think differently, it's like taking a little country road. It's, you haven't traveled down that before. You're unsure. You might get lost. But the more you travel, the more cars travel, the more thoughts, the more gamma in the brain traveling through those neurons, connecting neurons, the bigger the synapse gets. So you can think of it in terms of streets or roads. Okay, so like I just moved into a new place. I'm getting to know the area. Like, oh, where's this street? Where's that street? How does it all connect? But as I'm thinking that, there's a map in my brain that's physically happening. As I'm joining the dots with my environment, it's happening physically inside of me. Neurons that wire together, neurons that fire together, wire together. That is Hebb's law. It's a neuroscience law, right? So neurons start talking and then they create connections. So there's a map in my brain that's developing as I am learning the map around me. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And this is the thing. So many of these connections go unchallenged. We just accept this is the truth. Surgeons are men. Da 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 da. The world is like this in my mind, right? And that is those. And I think that way because of a default narrative, because it's difficult to think differently. How do we think differently? Through mindfulness. What is directly in front of me? Okay? When we build that capacity, then our reality can literally start to change. That's why it's just so important. Here are those neurons and the synaptic connections. It looks a little bit something like that. And then there's 80 billion neurons in your brain. 80 billion. I mean, who counts that? I don't even know. This is a scene from a stupid movie in the 80s called Airplane. And you can see this lady's pretty shocked. That's the autopilot. It's the inflatable autopilot. And she's horrified, right? Because the autopilot's taken over flying the plane. And I get pretty horrified if I'm sitting in the car and someone is looking at their phone while they're driving, because I know that they're not really driving. I get terrified. I get angry. I get upset, right? It's a similar kind of experience for me. So this is the table that highlights what autopilot looks like and what mindfulness looks like. Default narrative is autopilot. Okay, direct experience is mindful. Autopilot, we react with habit. We emptily relive the past. We neglect realities. We miss the details. We reenact established patterns. We have limited choices. We repeat past emotions. We neglect our potential. We enjoy life's pleasures less. Mindful way, we respond with awareness. We fully live in the present. We accept realities. We notice the details. We see the big picture. We have many choices. We have fresh emotions. We realize our potential. We enjoy life's pleasures more. So, anyone stand out for you guys that you want to comment on, perhaps? I think when it comes to mindful eating, right? Catherine was saying she had was it the paella? Was the paella at the Greenside Mark?
Yes, the vegetarian paella.
Okay. You loved it. You enjoyed it so much, right? You see, we enjoy life's pleasures more. It's so nice to really enjoy the taste of something and to be there to experience it. It's so
If I may interject there.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm interrupting
Not at all.
again. To answer your question, the one that popped out at me here was under a mindful way. We see the big picture. And if I reflect on my personal challenge that I had last week, and I reflect on the work challenge that I had, in both cases, I saw, I didn't immediately see the big picture, but reminded myself of the big picture. And it does have its pros and its cons.
Mm.
When you don't understand, well, I know for myself, I don't understand how that big picture is going to happen or come about. I go internal and I say to myself, it is going to happen because it's going to happen because I'm going to make it happen.
Sure.
And yeah, that just resonated with me profoundly. Does
Nice.
that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That does make sense. Very much so. I love it. That would be a mindful reframing, perhaps, or understanding that you're in a pattern and you're breaking free of it. I recall I was in a meditation facility, and there was a bird, a swallow, that came in and was flying round and round and round and just couldn't escape. But the windows and the doors were all open. And sadly, the bird just did not escape. And on the second day, the bird was still there and really disturbing my meditation practice. And I tried everything to get the bird to just drop down and fly to freedom. And then this lady came, the cleaning lady, with a big mop, and terrorized this bird so much that the bird dropped down and flew out the door. But it took an act of terror to to get that bird to fly away. And I was thinking, stupid bird. And then I sat down in meditation. I was like, not such a stupid bird, like I'm exactly the same. Stuck in a pattern. And sometimes freedom, sometimes the doors open, but we're just stuck in our prison. We're stuck in our conditioning, and that's autopilot, right? It's autopilot. So Dr. Ellen Langer says that we are, as human beings, we're in autopilot 47% of our day, which means we're not present. At 47% of our day, we are living in the autopilot state. And she says that when we live and make decisions and work in that state, we cause ourselves more suffering and problem. Why? Because we're reacting with habit, we're reliving the past, we're neglecting realities, we're missing the details, we're reenacting established patterns, we have limited choices, all of those things we are doing and unconsciously on autopilot. Okay? So can we see how important it is to be mindful? And even just a little bit more in your day, even if it's 5% more, can make a world of difference. Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. We've got to be able to shift into a different state of mind. Right? So how do we do that? I spent 22 years in the advertising industry, and I was managing director of my own advertising agency for 5 years. And it was always fascinating to me, how do I get people to be more creative? How do I get people to think out of the box? Because we are told to be creative in the advertising industry, but nobody knows, how do you access creativity? How do you tap into it? Is there something you can do? And no one ever said, okay, guys, we're going to do this or whatever. Some people would do cocaine or smoke boom, or, there were agencies literally with drugs on the table to get people to think differently. Yeah. Because they didn't know, like, how do we get these guys to think differently? But here we go. This is how we think differently. How do we get the big idea? And then the thing is, how do we hold on to that idea? The worst advertising agency I ever worked for was a lady that was running. I won't say names, but she was a tyrant, and everyone was really scared of her. And she'd put us in a room and say, all right, everyone, we have to work on the next ad campaign for Toyota, the billboard. Come up with some great ideas. And we all sit there like this. And then she'd say, Mark, you're just sitting there like this. Say something. And I'll be like, I don't know. And then it's like, you, Justine, what's your idea? I don't know. And we were completely stupid, right? We were like the dumbest team in South Africa, because we could not think of anything clever or smart. Why? Anyone take a guess? Anna Marie, you're on mute.
Yeah, maybe scared to make a mistake, or people will laugh at your idea.
Yeah, we were afraid. She made us afraid. So, the deer in the headlights story. The deer gets so afraid that it freezes. Right? Remember, fight, flight, or freeze. When you get scared, you can either run away or fight or freeze. In a situation like that, you can't run away or you can't fight against the boss. You freeze. When you freeze, the amygdala picks up that this woman is a threat. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex. It shuts down your creativity and your ability to think out of the box. It also affects your memory, your hippocampus. So you can't access your memories well enough. So literally you dumb yourself down. And one bully in authority can do that to everybody without even thinking about it. I used to work with a photographer, excellent photographer, car photographer, worked with him for 8 years. We used to photograph cars. Cars are very difficult to photograph because they are reflective. It's like photographing a mirror. So you've got to position the lights in such a way that you don't see the lights, but the car is still lit up. And it can take 3 hours of work to get one photograph, one picture. And I recall the assistant, his name was Johnny. He's been doing the lights for 20 years. But as soon as the photographer started shouting, "Johnny, stop being a bloody idiot!" all of a sudden, Johnny just didn't know what to do anymore. He forgot what he was doing. He forgot everything, all his experience. And as he was being shouted at, Johnny got dumber. And it was terrible. And it was the photographer's fault, because he is shouting and barking, putting Johnny into the fight, flight, or freeze. And Johnny's brain is shutting down. So one of the most successful agencies that I worked for, they said, "Guys, we're going away for the weekend and we're going to brainstorm. We're paying for a lekker weekend away. And we're going to swim by the pool, bring your slip-slops, bring your shorts, your cozies. We're going to eat. Oh, and by the way, let's think of some good ideas for a billboard." The boss didn't get hectic. We were in a safe environment. We were in a safe space. We felt heard. We felt happy. We were playful. We were having fun. And the ideas just flew. It just grew. And it was amazing. You see the difference between the two styles of leadership. So when you feel that you're in a safe space, you are able to generate awesome, awesome ideas. Do yourself a favor. There's a book by Nancy Klein called Time to Think. It's a bestseller. Has anyone read it? She talks about giving people space, and that she says everybody has something to offer. Everybody is a genius on some level. If you give them the space to be heard. I love that. And if we bully people, if we pressurize people, their brain will experience the amygdala hijack. And I think of children as well, right? If it's exam time and you're rushing them in the morning and you're stressing them out, they get to the exam. They've studied, but they can't access their memories. They can't access their learning because of the stress response. And some children that suffer from anxiety might do worse at school because of it. And it's really important to make them feel safe and nurtured, and try and remove as much stress from their minds as possible. That's why mindfulness and breath work can be so beneficial for the kids, in helping them get better grades. But teachers don't really understand this. Parents don't really understand this. Nobody knows what is the amygdala hijack, never heard of it before. It's a very real thing. Yeah, any comments or questions on that? So we're talking about genius. We're talking about how to be thinking like Albert Einstein, how to come, Einstein also said, "I'm not that smart. I just have the ability to focus my mind more than most." So Einstein is giving us insight into what is intelligence. We're not just born clever. It's how long we can stay with something and unpack that thing, right? You can imagine He's writing out that theorem, E equals MC squared. And if he had WhatsApp, that thing would never have happened. He'd be looking at his phone, he'd be distracted. But he was able to stay with it and unpack it. And that is a sign of remarkable intelligence, the ability to stay focused. You know, there's this whole thing now on TikTok that the kids are addicted. They're worried because it's eating away at the young mind's ability to focus on one thing for a period of time. TikTok is 30 seconds, 1 minute videos. It's little bits of bites. It's like chewing gum. It's bubble gum for the brain. It's got nothing, no nutrition, no nutrients. The brain, in order to be happy, in order to thrive, its sustenance is focus. Okay, not TikTok. TikTok's the worst. It's all over the news at the moment. You know how addictive it is. It's this sort of dopamine craze, but it's encouraging short bursts of focus with, you know, I mean, how can they read a book? How can they keep their mind on one thing for longer than a minute or two? Because that's what TikTok's doing. It's unlearning the ability to focus on one thing. It's a freaking pandemic. And no one, and parents know this, right? We all know this. We all know this, but we don't know it enough. We don't know it well enough. It's scary. It's really frightening. Albert Einstein said technology will turn us into zombies, and that technology would be a wonderful servant but a cruel master. And it's happening more and more.
Mark, I had attended a team building event about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and it was a lovely experience. We were put into groups between 11 to 13 staff, all mixed from different departments. And the objective, the concept was an amazing race, and it was held at the Blue Ball Stadium. And we had to do a lot of thinking from a creative perspective. One of the fun parts of the day, we were given a plastic bag, and we were asked to go and retrieve things linked to the first letter of each alphabet that we found randomly, that weren't placed, but we had to think like, I was very proud, can I boast? I went T for toilet paper. Okay. So I went into the bathroom, went to go get toilet paper, and we popped it into the packet. And I was intrigued. I mean, we had about 5 hours to complete various tasks.
Wow.
Most of my colleagues, I would say the lion's share in my group I hadn't met before, and a lot younger than me, and no one was on their phones for those 5 hours. It was just such an incredible morning. We were talking, we were engaging, we were thinking out of the box. And, you know, one of the other fun things that we had to do, we had to find a statue of an unknown player at the stadium. And we ended up finding 3 different statues that could have represented the unknown player, including the Blue Balls ball, which is at the entrance as you come in. All right. So we were really thinking completely out of the box in these things. It was only at the end of the day when we were sitting around having a meal and having a drink, people were on their phones. And then I was asked, so Kath, do you have a TikTok account? And I said, no, I don't. And they all started laughing. I said, why? Do you need help with it? So I said, no, thank you. I don't need help. And I don't want one. And I was like horrified. Like, why don't you want one? Yeah, so
Wow.
bit of a funny experience to share.
I don't have one either. I don't have one either, and I don't want one. You know, my son says he doesn't look at it that much, and that he can only handle so much at a time. And I hope that's true. I think he wouldn't lie to me. But yeah, it just shows you that amazing race experience. How wonderful to collaborate, to be focused, to have fun and playfulness. You know, I was reading that it takes 200 repetitions for us to learn something, unless it's done with play, which takes between 10 and 20 repetitions. Wow, with play, you know. So if you want people to remember your presentation, bring some fun into it, right? Or your speech or your talk or whatever. So there's two things. There's convergent thinking and divergent thinking. Does anybody know what convergent thinking is? Okay, it's when you get together with people like Catherine did, and you say, right, guys, let's put our heads together and come up with some ideas. And then someone says, why don't we try it like this? And you go, yeah, that's a good idea. And we can add this and add that and that. And then you get like, you know, brainstorming. Okay? And you build on those ideas. And it's good. It's great. Then there's divergent thinking. When all of a sudden you think of something out of the blue. Wow, where did that come from? Think about it. Where do you have some of your best ideas? Where are you? Do you know?
In the shower, mostly.
In the shower? Yes. Anybody else?
For me, it's definitely while quiet and still, meditating in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about it. Where do you have some of your best ideas? Is it when you're crunching away, you're feeling a little stressed? Not really. Nope. For me, my morning meditation is ruined with great ideas. I have to sit with a notepad and quickly write it down. Otherwise, I can't let it go, and my morning meditation is over. So I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm going to do this. Yes, that's how I'm going to present later. Write it down. Okay, let it go now. I've written it down. And I'm plagued by awesome ideas and creative ideas. Haunted. Because I meditate. That is what we call divergent thinking. It's where something arrives and it's almost as if it comes out of nowhere. It's a moment of insight. It just arrives and you don't know how. It's like bubbles that come up from the bottom of the ocean, you know, that ocean mind thing. And this is why it happens, okay? This is why it happens, and I'm going to show you now. Oops. Where are we? It happens because we move our brain waves from alpha, from beta to alpha. You see here, here's beta, this green part. That's when you're concentrating, where you're cognizing. You might be in a meeting or whatever. This is alpha. You see how nice and smooth, a lot more smoother. This is when you relax, when you're in meditation, or when you're being mindful and you're calm and you're feeling that you're in a safe space. Your brain waves relax, you see? And this place here is where divergent thoughts arise. Creativity, rock and roll in this zone. Not so much creativity here at all. And this is a burst of gamma where you have that eureka moment and your brain floods with gamma. Okay? So every time you relax, every time you have that shower, or you take the dog for a walk, or you're having a bath, or you're doing something chilled, you go into alpha brainwave state. And that's where you have your divergent thoughts. You can have convergent thinking in beta. That's fine. So Catherine, I'm sure when you're doing an amazing race, you're feeling a bit stressed. You've got to try, it's competitive, but you're working together with your team, and you could be in the beta brainwave phase. But you might, I'll give you some insight. My mindfulness teacher used to take every Wednesday off and spend the whole day in meditation on the business, and then coming to work on a Thursday with like incredible ideas on how to move forward. Because there was no distraction. There was nothing else. He just sat down and said, right, I'm just going to go into deep meditation on the business, and I'm just going to sit and wait for whatever arises. Okay? So there's another technique called, another attitude of mindfulness called non-striving. We've got 3 attitudes: non-reactivity, non-judgment, and open-heartedness. There's another one, non-striving. People don't like to hear that. Of course we must strive. What do you mean non-striving? Why do you think there's this attitude called non-striving?
I'll have a go at it.
Yeah.
So when I'll speak in I, when I'm striving, I am being led by an underbelly of anxiety.
Sure.
So that striving is me reaching for something to fulfill something else. It's conditioning, and it's seeking validation, whatever it might be.
Yep.
So it's an anxiety driven thing.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love it. Yes. Let go of striving for great thinking. Let's put it this way. You're in the shopping center and someone comes up to you and they say, "Hello, Kathy. Haven't seen you in 5 years. How are you doing?" And you look at them and you go, "Oh my God, what is..." You're starting to sweat, but you can't remember their name. And you're like, "Hi, friend. Are you well? Good to see you too." And inside you're going, "What's their name? What's 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 their name?" And then as they walk away, what happens? You remember their name. And why don't we remember their name in the moments of panic? You see, because we're striving, because we're stressed, we're feeling stressed, so we can't access their name. As soon as they go away, their name arrives. Oh my word, it's Julie, So we let go of the striving, and we keep the prefrontal cortex online, not like Home Affairs Department that's always offline. Okay, we keep we keep the prefrontal cortex online, and then we're able to access our memories and our long-term memories. And there's beautiful interaction between the short-term brain and the long-term brain. And that's why the more we push and the more we bully ourselves, right? Remember, bullying shuts you down. We can literally put ourselves into a state of fight, flight, or freeze. which then shuts down any good thinking at all. And that's why there's this thing of non-striving. One of my Tibetan teachers said to me, when you focus on the breath, don't try too hard. 30% awareness, like soft cotton wool. Touch the breath like soft cotton wool. I was like, wow, that's really gentle. I like it. I don't have to focus too hard. When we try to focus the mind, when we try to push, the mind says, sorry, you can't bully me. You're not going to push me around. It's like a naughty little kid, right? But as soon as we let go of wanting to be perfect, of wanting perfection, our mind is happy. It's like, yeah, I can be free. I'm loving this, don't push me in a corner. I don't know. It's like the weirdest thing, right? As soon as you relax with it, you get the best out of your brain. Nicole Mensah.
Is that why in your breathing practice you use the word softly, gently?
Exactly.
Because of that
Exactly.
messaging.
Soft.
I did find, I
Yeah.
felt that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was supportive for me too, because
Sure.
it did introduce that. You're quite right.
There's an element of self-kindness and self-compassion. When we let go of the rigidity of how we approach our own mind, and then that will then translate in how we approach others. Because we know, right, if I put X amount of pressure on this person, they're going to shut down. They're going to get scared. I'm not going to get the best out of them. It's called holding space, right? Holding space for yourself and holding space for somebody else. And most leaders don't understand this. Most people in leadership don't get this. People still complain about tyrant bosses and managers, and their departments don't produce anything worthwhile, and they're all breaking down and having burnout and blah, 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 blah. Because people don't understand the science of how to think. People understand why they need to think in such ways, but they don't understand how. Nobody teaches them the how to think. And it's beautiful because it's part of a mindful process. I want to show you some beautiful quotes. I'm literally changing to other slides. Let's have a look. We can even reflect on this quote from last week, which was so good. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies my freedom. That space, right? To choose. Here's a quote by Leonardo da Vinci. Every now and then go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer, since to remain constantly at work will cause you to lose power of judgment. Go some distance away, because the work appears smaller and more of it can be taken in at a glance. And a lack of harmony or proportion is more readily seen. So Leonardo is saying, don't work like a slave. Give up striving. Give up pushing. Give up hustling. And your mind will be better. You'll see mistakes easier. Right? Get off the hamster wheel. Oops. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. When I'm completely myself, entirely all alone, or during the night when I cannot sleep, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how these come, I know not, nor can I force them, nor do I hear them in my imagination depart successfully, but I hear them at the same time altogether. He hears the whole symphony at the same time altogether, at some time in the night. That is an example of divergent thinking. It just happens. There's no effort. It just happens. Genius just happens. Genius just happens. Even Jay-Z, rapper, he says artists can have a greater access to reality. They can see patterns and details and connections that other people distracted by the blur of life might miss. Just sharing that truth can be a very powerful thing. You see, patterns and details and connections that other people can't see because they're in autopilot, the blur of life, right? Yeah. So there we go, beta and alpha. When we meditate, when we practice mindfulness, we move into the alpha state. There's one meditation practice that I'm not going to do with you tonight. I'm going to explain it to you. It's a problem-solving technique. So if you ever have any problems in your life, the problem-solving technique is sit down, focus on your breathing, and then there's an issue that's going on that you're battling to solve. Remember what Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we created the problem with. He's talking about beta and alpha, okay? So think of the problem, bring it to mind, battling to solve it, and then try not to solve it. And then just focus on your breathing. And then just leave the problem there on the back burner. Let it simmer, right? Don't even try. It's there, but just focus on your breathing. Have you ever tried to solve a problem like that? Give it a try. Try not solve it. You're creating the environment for a divergent process. Okay? And some of the greatest thought leaders, this is what they suggest. Try not solving it. Catherine?
Would the statement where energy goes, energy flows be applicable with that?
Where attention goes, energy flows. I think that's the statement, isn't it? Attention goes.
Beg your pardon. So if I'm putting more thought into the problem, beg your pardon, then it's going to continue to be a problem. If I stop being focused on the problem, it will endeavor to sort itself out with the practice that you'd like us to use.
Yeah, I think we can solve problems in a convergent way, right? I'm not saying
Right.
problems cannot be solved. I'm saying that if you hit a wall and you've tried to solve the problem from a convergent angle and it's not working. So maybe you've spoken to your friend about it, asked for advice. Maybe you spoke to your parents or your partner or whatever, and everyone's like, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. And you kind of at a point where you're like, what do I do? Maybe it's, what do I do with my career? What sort of job should I get? Like, whatever problem you have and you're struggling to solve it and you've tried to think it through and you've hit a wall, then shift into trying not to solve it and then sit with it. Like sit with it, but try not solve it. And that will encourage a divergent process. And I can't guarantee it will work either. But it's worth the attempt. Some people say, I tried, I've been sitting with it, I've been moving into divergent place. If you think about what's his name? Archimedes. Archimedes was trying to figure out how to fix the water system in Syracuse in Greece, ancient Greece. And he was lying in the bath. And all of a sudden he figured out the aqueduct system while lying in the bath, right? His brain is alpha because he's chilling in the bath. And then he jumps out of the bath, and what does he shout? What is the word? Eureka! Eureka! And he jumps out of the bath naked and runs through the street naked, shouting, Eureka! Eureka! Right? And he solved a big problem. And he was just chilling in the bath, just lying there, not like, maybe not even thinking that much about it. Okay? All right. Dr. Eden Langer also recommends that we spend a lot of time in our head, right? We spend a lot of time trying to thinking too much, thinking. And she just says that, I mean, she's quite a remarkable, I must try and find a video of her. She's really great, eh? And she gives these talks and she says, when you go for a walk or when you go for a run or something like that, try to notice things around you. There's a tree, there's a car, do you know what all the trees are in your neighborhood? Have you seen all the cats and the dogs? Do you know who drives what car? Have you noticed what bush is flowering at what time of year? The clouds, I mean, there's so many things that we just don't notice, right? Even in your house, or you walk into someone's home, just make a mental note. What is there in that room? There's a chair, there's a painting, there's a candle, right? That'll bring you into the present moment. When you start to just notice things around you, that's going to bring you out of autopilot, okay? More. Okay, so it's just noticing, looking, what is in front of me. Very simple practice. Okay. Any questions or comments before we go into our meditation practice? You good? All right. The cycle of mindfulness. We're going back to a breath meditation, ladies. So we've just finished body scan. We're going back into breath. The cycle of mindfulness is that you're focusing your attention will wander, and you gently invite your attention back to the object. Every time you do this, you are building your prefrontal cortex in all the right places. Okay? This enables you to then decide what you want to focus on and how and when, rather than your mind forcing you to stay focused on something you don't want to. So we're building our brain and we're building our ability to focus on what we want to focus on. Okay, which is the key to your mental wellness. Because nobody wants to think depressed thoughts. No one wants to be anxious. No one wants to be fearful, right? We want to go, okay, I recognize that, but cool, I don't want to think about that. So bye-bye. Most people can't do that. Okay? Most people get stuck in their thoughts they can't get out. Mindfulness helps us to recognize and let go. So let's place 2 feet firmly on the ground and dropping the chin slightly, putting your hands in your lap on your knees. We're going to take a nice deep inhalation, breathing in through the nose and breathe it out the mouth. And now a natural, normal breath. Just resting your mind on your breath. And don't even try too hard. 30% focus. Give up striving to have the best breath meditation. Let go of pushing yourself and relax, relax, relax. Let your breath and your awareness on the breath be like the contact of soft cotton wool, gently, gently, softly, softly. So now, as we do this, thoughts will arise. And if you notice that a thought has arisen, label it like a post-it note. Thinking, thinking, and then return back to your breath. Maybe a sensation in the body arises. You label that feeling, feeling, and then return back to your breath. Maybe a sound will arise that will distract you, and then label that hearing, hearing, and then return back to your breath. Your breath is your anchor. We are not striving to focus on. We are just watching. Is there a thought arising? Is there a feeling arising? A sensation? Or is there a sound? And if you forget what the 3 labels are, that's on your screen. Always return back to the breath. Okay, let's end this now with a nice deep breath in. And breathe it out. And gently opening your eyes. So this practice, the mind has nowhere to run. Everything is part of the practice, right? Even the distraction. This is homework. We're going to talk about it next week. We're going to carry on with the gratitude journaling and non-reactivity as we've been doing. And then I'm going to email you a mandala, okay? Now you might have one of these books at home. You can use that. If you don't, I'll email you a picture if you could print it out. Or maybe you got a coloring in something else, that's fine. I don't mind. You can get colored pencils from anywhere, Pick n Pay or Checkers or whatever. And the homework is going to be just to color in a mandala. There's no rush. You don't have to do it in the next week, okay? But I'm going to ask you when you do finish it to take a picture of it and send it to me. And I'll post it on the group. So we'll be wow, everybody's mandalas, you know? Okay? And I find it's really quite easy because when you're working online and you're in a Teams meeting, you can just sit and doodle your mandala, and the next thing you know, you'll finish it very quickly. And I find that it's not multitasking. You're just kind of listening and coloring in, and it's actually calming your mind down. It's actually a really calming experience. You could be, I don't know, yeah, you could sit with the TV on, color it in, whatever. It's one of those things you can do. Sorry, there's a helicopter going over. You can do it anyway, okay? And it doesn't matter if there's something else going on. It's just sitting with that mandala. It's a mindful experience. Obviously, the more we can just lose ourselves in the coloring, the better. We can actually get into a flow state by doing it. It's very beautiful where time disappears. Your mind is in it. You're enjoying it. It's blissful. You know, it's actually a lovely experience. Now, we've been talking about creativity and innovation in this class. So I thought it would be a wonderful, you know, space to introduce this here. As I said, there's no pressure to finish it by next Monday. If you do, great. If you don't stress, okay? I will email it to everyone. And as I said, you can use your own coloring in book if you do have one. So it's going to be the practice, the mandala, and then I'll share with you what is called the ocean of wisdom. And it's the practice of thinking, feeling, and hearing. What else is there? I think that's it. Yeah. That's it, yeah. Bit of a fun class. Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions or comments before we close? Everyone happy? Yeah, Bo? Yeah, Bo?
I'm either getting very good with this meditation or I fell asleep. But for a minute, I'm like, are they still there?
Yeah, Kathy, your forehead actually hit the screen, and you were like, you know, it was like this. I'm just kidding. No, for sure. Well, that's another thing, you know, to balance the mind between dullness and agitation. It's like, I know somebody asked the Buddha, you know, how should I meditate? And the Buddha said, it's like tuning a guitar string. He said, neither too tight nor too loose, just in the middle, you know. So neither too agitated nor too lazy and dull. You've got to find that balance in between. That's quite an interesting thing. Is, you know, anyway, it's simple, but it's complicated. Yeah. Try and simplify life as much as we can. I think that's the sort of essence of non-striving, you know. We get into analysis paralysis. Minimalist, minimalize it, simplify it, slow it down, and create space. All right, I'm going to love and leave you. Have yourselves a wonderful week until next Monday. Enjoy your holiday, Workers' Day. Take a break, relax, and I'll be sending you an email and some more WhatsApps as we go along. Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Mark. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mark. Thanks, ladies. Bye.
Thanks, Nicole. Bye.